Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning Blaque in once again to the Authentic Black Goddess TV. I'm your host, QueenAShakur, and this is the third dose of your daily vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time Queen Goddess goes live. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAShakur. Also on Instagram, make sure you follow the QueenAShakur fan page, and you can check me out on Twitter at TheGoddess27. Shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone tuned into the Queen. So let's get into it. Listen to this. Now, will a stand your ground claim of self-defense, will that help a black man who killed a white intruder in Oklahoma? Legal expert says it depends. I just leave it to God. Now I want y'all to pay attention. So when a white person uses the stand your ground defense, that always works for them. It always works. It always works. But when it comes to a black person using it, especially if they killed a white person, they say just leave it to God. In other words, you better be hoping and praying it works, because they didn't make these laws for us, honey, not the ones that are beneficial. They made those laws to work for them. Now, with a criminal trial just 2 months away, Vicki Bratcher is remaining hopeful that her husband, LaRue Bratcher, age 34, is going to prevail in court. Now, she says all his 3 attorneys, they've all said this is stand your ground. This is what she says. Now, her husband has been charged with first-degree murder. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because they've already charged him with first-degree murder. First-degree murder is premeditated murder. First-degree murder means that you lie in wait or that you plotted and planned to do something to someone, then you carried it out. First-degree murder is a capital offense. So with that all being said, how do we get at first-degree murder when it was self-defense according to him? So you already can rest assured, honey, they're not going to let him get away with no stand your ground. That's what they're not going to do. I've told you the story about the man who in Kennesaw, Georgia, a black man who killed a white man on his own property, who charged him with a box cutter, charged at him, tried to stab him with it. He pulled out his gun, shot the man, and there was numerous witnesses, both black and white neighbors, said that, in fact, the white man started the whole thing, and the black man was merely defending himself and his 16-year-old son, who the white man was harassing prior to the man coming home. That black man got a life sentence. Now, years later, he was let out, but he did at least 6 years in prison, and it was a whole life sentence, okay? So please, I don't think that's going to work in this case because they don't allow black people to use stand your ground. Let's not forget the black woman who was sentenced to 20 years in Florida when she fired a warning shot at her estranged husband who was used to beat her and all of that. Now, like I said, with the other case, years later, I believe it was 5 years afterward, she was let out, but she did serve 5 years. So black people don't have the luxury of stand your ground and cancel doctrines, honey. That's what they don't do. All right. That's only for them, so they can get away with killing black people mostly. Now, with that all being said, around 1 a.m. on May the 26th of 2020, LaRue Bratcher was in his marijuana business. And I reported this to you all before. When this first happened, I reported this to you. Now, I want you to listen closely to the details. So LaRue Bratcher was at his marijuana business, Premium Smoke LLL, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, when he noticed Daniel Hardwick, 43, trying to break into his business. Now, Vicki Bratcher said this was not the first time that Hardwick attempted to break into their business. She said he was breaking in when my husband gave him his warnings and was like, "What are you doing?" The man continued to break in, and that's where my husband fired through the door. The man was unfortunately on the other side. My husband could not see what was the man's position or anything, and that's when the bullet struck him in the head, and unfortunately the man died. Now, Bratcher called the police after Hardwick was shot, and when the officers arrived, they learned LaRue Bratcher was operating his marijuana business without an active license. So they used that to charge him with first-degree murder. You see, his license had expired, but due to stupid 19, the whole pandemic, he was not able to go and get it renewed. Now, these people were supposed to be granted extensions due to the stupid 19 going on, right? And many businesses being closed, and he wasn't able to extend his license. But they didn't care. They charged him with first-degree murder. Now, they go on to say he was then arrested because his license was inactive, and police confiscated 480. Here we go with the civil asset forfeiture that I keep telling you all about. Police confiscated 480 marijuana plants that were clearly worth $1.5 million from Bratcher's business. Bratcher quickly bonded out from a lapsed license arrest, but a week later, the Oklahoma County District Attorney charged him with second-degree murder, and his bond was then revoked. So they put him right back in jail. Now, they say, I believe it was one of the prelim hearings where the DA, David Prater, said this is not even second degree. I need to look into this and charge you with first degree, and comes back in December and then charges LaRue and changed it to first degree murder. And it just made things so much harder on us, says his wife, Vicky. I can only imagine. Now, on December the 4th of 2020, Bratcher's murder charge was upgraded to first-degree murder. How is it first-degree murder when someone's breaking in your business and you shoot at them to protect yourself and your family who's in there? Not second degree. He says, oh, you know what? I made a mistake. My bad. It's not second degree. It's actually, as I looked into it, first degree. Clearly wicked and racist. Now, Bratcher sat in the Oklahoma County Jail until his bond hearing on June the 14th of 2021. Judge Heather Coyle then set Bratcher's bond at $400,000. Once Bratcher's bond was established, the Oklahoma City Black Lives Matter chapter stepped in and paid Bratcher's bail. Now, the BLM executive director, Reverend T. Cherie Marie Dickerson, said the BLM board voted to use its money to help Bratcher and disrupt the criminal justice system. They said posting cash bond is a way we can disrupt the system because the cash bail system should be abolished. It should not exist. It creates a debtor's prison, and those who are affected are generally Black, brown, indigenous, poor people who don't have access to resources, Dickerson says. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. She also said our bail fund is primarily used around people who are being treated unjustly within the judicial system here in the state of Oklahoma. Now, Bratcher's supporters are hoping his defense or his self-defense claims under the Stand Your Ground law helps his case, which in Oklahoma covers a person who is not engaged in unlawful activity and who is attacked in a place he or she has a right to be. Such a person has no duty to retreat and can meet force with force, including deadly force. Let me tell you something. They're absolutely not going to allow that to stand stand your ground, because here's I want you to pay attention. Listen to how it is. They say it covers a person in Oklahoma who is not engaged in unlawful activity. That's where they're going to get him. They're going to use that as a loophole. And the reason they're going to be able to do so is because they've already said that his license for his business was inactive. And so therefore, they're going to say that he was illegally holding the business open. The business shouldn't have been open if his license was expired. And they're going to say that he was acting unlawfully. And therefore, stand your ground does not apply to him. Watch what I tell you. Even though, as I said, these people were supposed to have been given extensions because of the extenuating circumstances of businesses being closed where you could get your license extended or renewed due to stupid 19. Okay, so anyway, they say, however, given Bratcher's expired marijuana license, like I said, that's probably not going to cover him. Now, Ari Freelick, the state policy director at the Giffords Law Center, believes state prosecutors may zero in on Bratcher's lapsed license, which could disqualify him from any stand your ground claims. Isn't that something? A little technicality is how they get you, Black people. Please pay attention. Now, Freelick also believes that other factors could impact Bratcher's case. They say even if there was no allegation that Mr. Bratcher was engaged in any illegal activity as a result of the lapsed license, I believe he would still have to establish that he knew or reasonably believed that the intruder was illegally and forcefully entering that place of business, or establish that he otherwise had a reasonable belief that the use of deadly force was necessary to prevent death or great bodily harm to himself. Well, let me tell you something. Here's the thing. If someone is illegally entering your property, your dwelling, they're breaking in, and you've warned them not to come in, and they continue, how do you know what they're going to do? I would absolutely think they're coming in there to do something nefarious. I would absolutely think that I have to defend myself at this point, because why are you coming in here? If you're just so thugged out that you'll break into someone's business, you'll break into someone's home, you'll break into someone's residence or whatever, who knows what you're capable of? So I would assume the worst, because that's usually what it turns out to be. And so with that all being said, they say that he'll have to establish this and prove that there's a need for use of deadly force to prevent death or great bodily harm to himself. Now, since Bratcher was released from jail in June, since then, he wears a GPS ankle monitor, but his wife, Vicky, says she's thankful that he is home surrounded by loved ones, including his 5 children, as he awaits trial. From the moment I wake up, I just leave it to God. God knows what he's doing, Vicky says, of the upcoming trial, which is set for February 28, 2020. Or, I'm sorry, 2022. Oh, so crazy. Oh, so crazy. So hold on. I'm going to show a news clip. Everyone, please like and share. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all. I'm going to mute my mic for a moment.
All of his 3 attorneys, they've always said this is a stand your ground. But
with a criminal trial just 2 months away, Vicky Bratcher is remaining hopeful her husband, 34-year-old LaRue Bratcher, will prevail in court.
Within these last 6 months, I haven't thought about trial in any negative way. I've always thought that he's going to get released. This is just temporary. Eventually, he's going to have his full freedom.
Around 1 a.m. on May 26th of last year, LaRue Bratcher was at his marijuana business in Oklahoma City when he noticed 43-year-old Daniel Hardwick trying to break in.
He was breaking in when my husband gave his warnings, like, what are you doing? The man continued to break in, and that's when my husband fired through the door. The man, unfortunately, was on the other side. My husband could not see what was the man's position or anything, and that's when the bullet struck him in the head, and unfortunately the man died.
Vicky Bratcher says her husband immediately called police after Hardwick was shot. When police arrived, they learned LaRue Bratcher was operating his marijuana grow business without an active license, and he was then arrested, and 480 marijuana plants were confiscated worth $1.5 million. Bratcher quickly bonded out, but a week later, the Oklahoma County District Attorney charged Bratcher with second-degree murder, and his bond was denied.
I believe it was one of the prelim hearings where he did say that, this is not even a second degree. I need to look good into this and charge you with first degree. And comes back in December, he charged LaRue and changed it to first degree murder. And it just made things so much harder on us.
On December 4th of last year, Bratcher's murder charge was upgraded to first-degree murder. Bratcher sat in the Oklahoma County Jail until his bond hearing on June 14th of this year. Judge Heather Coyle then set Bratcher's bail amount at $400,000. It was then did the Oklahoma City Black Lives Matter chapter step in and paid Bratcher's bail. Executive Director Cherie Ari Dickerson says the BLM board voted to
are being treated unjustly within
bond hearing on June 14th of this year. Judge Heather Coyle then set Bratcher's bail amount at $400,000. It was then did the Oklahoma City Black Lives Matter chapter step in and paid Bratcher's bail. Executive Director Cherie Ari Dickerson says the BLM board voted to use its money to help Bratcher and disrupt the criminal justice system.
Our bail fund is primarily used around people who are being treated unjustly within the judicial system here in Oklahoma. That happens consistently and deliberately, especially in Oklahoma County.
Bratcher supporters are hoping his self-defense claim under the Stand Your Ground law helps his case, which in Oklahoma covers a person who is not engaged in unlawful activity and who is attacked in a place he or she has a right to be. They have no duty to retreat and can meet force with force, including deadly force. But given Bratcher's marijuana grow license had expired, Does the law cover him? Ari Freelich, the state policy director at the Giffords Law Center, believes state prosecutors may zero in on Bratcher's lapsed license, which could disqualify him from Stand Your Ground. Freelich also believes other factors could impact Bratcher's case. He says in a statement, if there was no allegation that Mr. Bratcher was engaged in any illegal activity as a result of the elapsed license, I believe he would still have to establish he knew or reasonably believed the intruder was illegally and forcefully entering his place of business, and he had reasonable belief deadly force was necessary. Since being released from jail in June, Bratcher has to wear a GPS ankle monitor, but his wife Vicky says she's thankful he's home and can prepare for his upcoming trial surrounded by loved ones, including his 5 children.
From the moment I wake up, I just leave it to God. God knows what he's doing.
Bratcher's trial is set for February 28th of next year.
And now let me tell you all something. First of all of this is going on because this man is black and because he killed a white person who was breaking into his building, into his business. Another thing is, I want you to pay attention because this happened in Oklahoma, right? You know, there's numerous people who are envious of black business owners, especially when you have a thriving business, which clearly this man had, because the police confiscated 480 marijuana plants worth an estimated value of $1.5 million. So that would say to me that he was obviously a successful business owner. And we already know how they get down in Oklahoma about that. I mean, you can just go back and look at the records from Black Wall Street in Tulsa, right? Where they destroyed all those black-owned businesses. And see, this is another way that they run black business owners out of business, by doing things like this, tying them up with legalities. Okay, this is what they do. With that all being said, the fact that he was released on bail, like just the next day after he was arrested or a few hours later, they didn't like that. That didn't sit well with them. And that's why they re-arrested him and upped the charges and the ante and then raised the bail. Okay, that's why they did that. And now by confiscating his plants, which they had no business doing, because what did those plants have to do with the fact that this man was trying to break into his building besides nothing? See, they did that because they want to paint the picture that he was engaged in an unlawful activity and therefore stand your ground doesn't apply in this case. That's just what it is. That's just what it is, honey. The devils are always busy and working, honey. You can never put anything past them. That's what you cannot do. Now listen to this. Proud Boys associate to serve nearly 3 years in prison for threatening Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock. So let's get into it. So they say a New York man who is affiliated with the Proud Boys has been sentenced to nearly 3 years in prison for making threats against Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia. Now, Edouard Fleury of Queens pleaded guilty to threatening to kill Warnock and to illegally possessing ammunition, per an NBC News report. Fleury posted the threats on Parler, a social media platform frequently used by conservatives to spread their divisive messages. And this is what he said, and I quote, "Dead men can't pass S laws." I'm thinking that means shites. Dead men can't pass shite laws. This is what he wrote January the 5th and 6th. In additional messages, he made separate threats on Warnock's life. One message said, Warnock is going to have a hard time casting votes for communist policies when he's swinging with the effing fish. That's what it says, swinging, not swimming, but he said swinging with the effing fish. Now, I don't know if he meant to put swimming and put swinging because he was thinking about putting swinging from a tree, because you know they love to lynch black folk, right? And then when it's found out and the police, find the bodies, they say it was suicides. Pay attention. But anyway, he says, we need to regroup outside D.C. and attack from all sides. This is what he wrote about the U.S. Capitol insurrection on January the 6th. In another post, he wrote, guns cleaned, loaded, got a bunch of guys all armed and ready to deploy. But they don't want to label these devils and thugs as domestic terrorists. Clearly, they rose up and turned on their own government and tried to overthrow it, amongst other nefarious things. Now, Fleury reportedly planned to attend the insurrection, but his ride to Washington, D.C. from New York never showed up. His wife told lawyers from the government that he was in a frenzy to join the attack, which left 5 people dead. And why aren't they all charged with murder since people died when they were all in the commission of felonies? Y'all paying attention? That's what they won't do. But they'll take a 16-year-old black teen who's involved in a burglary, and the police show up and shoot the other one, and they'll charge the one who survived with the death of the one the police killed and give him 65 years in prison. But see, when these white people go up to that Capitol and they cause it insurrection and 5 people turned up dead, none of them got charged with those deaths. All right? So anyway, Judge Eric R. Committee ordered Flora to serve 2 years of supervision after he leaves prison. And now, his wife said, told attorneys for the government that he was in a frenzy to join the attack, which left 5 people dead. And she also said that he assaulted her because she refused to raise money for the Proud Boys. In a statement to Breon Peace, the newly appointed U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of New York, well, he says, with today's sentence, the defendant faces serious consequences for threatening the life of the United States Senator Raphael Warnock as part of his effort to foment violence at the Capitol on January the 6th of 2021 in connection with attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Warnock, a pastor of Atlanta's historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, was elected to the U.S. Senate in a special runoff election on January the 5th. This is also nefarious. Also nefarious. But hold on. Let's look at this really quick. Hold on. Let me see if I have this. Okay, so as you all know, Kim Potter, the former cop who killed Deontay Wright, she took to the stand on Friday to testify on her own behalf. She took to the stand on Friday. Let me see if I can find some footage of that, because I want to hear what she had to say. And I hope she didn't get up there with those fake crocodile tears that Kyle Rittenhouse or Rittenhouse had, right? Let me see if I can find that really quick. Everyone, likes up, please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Click the notification bell and click the word all. Here we go. I can already see it. Can already see the fake crocodile tears. I'm going to mute my mic for a second. Likes up, please like and share. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so.
I'm sorry it happened. You were focused on what you had done, because you had just killed somebody. I'm sorry it happened. I remember yelling, "Taser, taser, taser," and nothing happened. And then he told me I shot him. They're still struggling, and I can see Sergeant Johnson and the driver struggling over the gear shifts, because I can see Johnson's hand, and then I can see his face.
And you knew Johnson for many years before this, is that right?
Yes.
And by looking at his face at that point in time, what did you interpret it to mean?
He had a look of fear on his face. It's nothing I've seen before.
After you shot Dante Wright, you didn't behave like someone who had just saved Sergeant Johnson's life, did you?
I was very distraught. I just shot somebody. I've never done that.
My question was, if you weren't with a field training officer that day and you were on patrol alone, would you have stopped that vehicle?
Most likely not.
And why not?
An air freshener to me is not, it's just an equipment violation. And during the COVID times, the high COVID times, the Department of Motor Vehicles was so offline that people weren't getting tabs, and we were advised not to try to enforce a lot of those things.
I don't know about you, but she can miss me with the fake crocodile tears. She's not crying because she killed that young man. She didn't care. At the end of the day, she said she never shot anyone before. Please miss me with it. She's been a police officer for 26 years. And last time I checked, and trust me, I checked, yeah, they said that was the second time she did it, not the first. That was the second time she pulled out her gun and yelled, taser, 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 shot someone. Now, the first person, I don't believe they died, but nevertheless, they said she'd done that before. So please miss me with it, talking about she never shot anyone before. I'm sure she's shot people before. I'm sure she shot people before. And at the end of the day, she can save the tears, okay, for somebody who's buying it. Because I'm not buying anything that Karen has to say. She's only crying because she wants sympathy and empathy from the jury so they can think that she's, you know, sorry for what she did. And it was all a mistaken accident and she can get off. No, send her to the prison yard where she belongs. All right. Send her to the prison yard, honey. I don't have time for these fools' tears. I don't care about your tears when you killed somebody's loved one. I don't care about your tears. You can sit there and talk about your sorry until you're blue in the face, red in the face, whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, she's full of shites, okay? Because if she was so sorry, I want y'all to pay attention. Because Deontay's mother said that when she showed up on the scene, her son was still in the car, bloody, and the only thing she could see were his feet hanging out. So here's the thing. Now, if I were a police officer, being someone who clearly has a heart, and has empathy and sympathy for fellow human beings. If I had accidentally shot someone and I thought that I was tasering them, the first thing I would have done would have been to try to assist them by rendering aid. First of all, call 911 and then try to render aid. How come nobody was giving him mouth to mouth? You know, how come no one was trying to resuscitate him? How come no one was applying a tourniquet to his bleeding to stop the bleeding? How come no one was doing any of those things, holding his hand, anything? When you're dying, I would think that if you saw someone dying, even if you didn't know for a fact they were dying, but they clearly looked like they could be, and you'd call 911 and you tried to render the best aid you could at least hold that person's hand and pray with them or give them kind and encouraging words, you know, as they're leaving this earth. That's just common human decency. She didn't do any of that. So don't sit your ugly, pale-faced self up there, Karen, and try to act like you're so darn sorry. Because the only thing she's sorry about is that she's on trial. That's the only thing she's sorry about. She's not sorry that she killed that young man. She's not sorry at all. All right, that's what she's not, because she would have been doing everything in her power to try to render aid and assistance to him. Please miss me with it. All she was worried about was herself. And how do you know that? I'm so glad you asked, because after she shot him, what did she say? What was the first thing she uttered? Oh my God, I shot him. I'm going to get fired. She was worried about her freaking job. Not that this young man was dying right there as she stood there like a fool, knowing that she'd shot him. She said, I'm going to get fired. That's where her mind went. So you want to tell me that you're sorry now? She's not sorry. The only thing she's sorry about is what she's going through. The only tears that she's shedding are for herself. All right? Point blank and serious. So anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. Please make sure you like and share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I hope to see you all in the next chat. Until then, have a blessed and lovely day. Peace.